could take a look up at the screen. I'm going to do a review of the wall tool. So if I go into my building shell tool set, it's the little house icon on my bottom, my tool set menus. Right at the top, or shortcut number 9, is going to be my wall tool. Now, as it's set up, I could just draw around and draw walls however I'd like. I can tab in and specify specific values, just like I would do so in either the line tool or the polygon tool. I can move back a step by hitting delete, and that takes me back if I want to rechange where that vertex is. I can go up and I can snap to the other points of the wall. Moving up, I got that little red square, and now I can see I have this horizontal align with H, and I can click and specify, and I can either close off my walls by completing the shape, or double clicking also will end that operation. So I can see that right now up in my wall menus, I am currently drawing an unstyled wall. It has a white fill and it has a black line. I can see that right now my thickness is 5.906 inches. I'm drawing an unstyled wall. If I want to make any changes to these walls, I can see that the options in my attributes palette are available, and I can just click and select a black wall, for instance, if I wanted to. I could also go into my object info palette and I can change the thickness. This we won't really get into now, but there's caps, so if I want to cap my wall, I can do so. Now if I select on this drop down menu, there's a none, a start, an end, and a both. So when we're drawing walls, it does depend which direction we draw in. So you can see that I went in a clockwise direction. Now if I just select this one wall, I can see that my object handles now, not only do I have the 2 squares, but I also have a square and a triangle on one end. That square and a triangle represents the start of that wall. So, and then the end point is just the square. So that start point is it's like I'm imagining standing at that start point. Then I'm facing in that direction. My left side of my wall is then on the left. My right side of my wall is then on the right. So because I drew in a clockwise direction, all of my start points are going to be from that clockwise direction. So I can go around and I can see how that all works out. Now, I'm just going to move this wall over here just to draw it. Here is, and I'm just going to change the fill so we can see. Here is my wall. I can see that it has a start and an end point. Right now, there's no caps on this wall. It's just, and there's no line around the ends. So if I select this wall, I can see that under my caps, I can go, it is none. I can just place a cap at the start, and we can see that it closed off that wall at that line. I can do just the end, and it uncapped that start point, and it capped that end point. I can also select both if I choose to. Okay, so it does matter which direction these walls are going in, and especially say if we wanted to change our walls or replace them, we need to be able to know which end is start and finish, or start and end, so that we can also know which side is left and which side is right. When we're using our wall tool, there's different ways of controlling how we draw the wall. So right now, if I'm drawing an unstyled wall, I can see that my first menu group, there's left, center, right, and custom. And when I draw my wall, I can see that this guideline, that red dashed line, is along the left-hand side of my wall, because this is my start point. If I place myself at that start point, that guideline is on the left. If I press the U key and I toggle between the control line modes, I can see that that wall shifts in relation to that guideline. So that guideline was first on my left side, now it's on my center, and if I press U again, it places it on my right side. So I can draw my line, I can double click, and there I have my wall. I'm going to draw that again because I want to go in and I want to specify a specific length. So I'm going to use my left, because we're usually, when we're doing our walls and we're measuring or dictating the measurements of our walls, we're usually doing it from outside of structure to outside of structure. So I'm going to click and I'm going to specify I want this to be 40 feet long. Enter, enter. Not only locks the length and location, but completes that vertex. And I'm going to go in and I'm going to specify 20 feet. And I'll just do another one here. It doesn't really matter. Okay, so I drew my lines and I should be able to measure from outside to outside, and it is equal to the measurements that I typed in when I was drawing those walls. Now, if I went in a counterclockwise direction and I try and tab in and specify those values.
Sorry, Carmen.
Yeah.
Quick question: when you say that you're controlling or you're toggling to the structure, you mean on the inside from the face of the stud to the outside to the face of the sheet?
Well, right now this wall doesn't have such things. So right now this wall is just 6 inches or the 5, and so right now I don't have those components. So it's in reference to the entire wall. I might in my head know that that wall is made up of studs and sheathing, but it's not set in stone as this wall is created at this time. So it's going to measure the outside or the left side, and right now it's in this wall control line mode. I could also specify the core component control line mode, and I will get into that further as we create different wall styles. Right now we're just kind of focusing on these control line modes. I went in a counterclockwise direction. I specified the same dimensions, but what's going to happen is I don't actually get those measurements because I was going in a clockwise direction, and my left control line mode, my left is then on my inside. So I've specified that 40-foot length, but it then it adds that thickness of the wall because my control line, my left, or what I thought was outside, is actually interior. So especially when we're drawing in a polygon mode, we're using those control lines, we need to draw in a clockwise direction. When we're drawing in, there's also the rectangle draw mode, and then that doesn't mean as much because you can still change those control lines. So I can see that now I'm doing my right control line mode, so my wall measurement is on the outside. So I can also toggle and by pressing the U key, I can tab in and specify that I want 40 feet. And actually I want to go and do minus 20 feet. And now I have my 40-foot length from outside to outside. And 20 feet. Is everybody comfortable with currently drawing an unstyled wall and drawing using both the polygon mode and the rectangle mode? All good.
Well, when I'm putting in the length, it's not doing it for me.
Okay.
It's like I hit tab.
Yeah.
And then I do 40 and foot.
Yeah.
And then it just disappears.
So what you have to do, you have to lock that measurement. So if you put 40 feet and then you move your cursor, that cursor movement is then saying, oh, I actually want to move it. So hit 40 feet and enter. That's going to lock the length. And enter again places that vertex.
Okay, so 40.
Feet,
Uh-huh.
enter, enter. Or return, return. Don't move your cursor. I can see you moving your cursor. Hands off your mouse. There you go.
Oh,
40
I go
feet.
tab.
Enter. And hit it twice.
No, it's not.
Okay, I'll come take a look once I go over this. Okay, so we've been drawing a simple wall. I'm going to delete all these. Now, if I go into my wall tool again, I can go on either, right now, I can click on my wall style drop-down menu and I can see Vectorworks comes with a populated library of existing Windows wall styles. Now, the thing is, they might be close to what we want, but they might not. This is a worldwide program, so it might not actually apply to our code. So if I go into my wall tool preferences, the little wrench and pencil, this brings me into my wall preferences dialog box. I can see that at the top, I'm currently drawing an unstyled wall. If I wanted to keep it unstyled, I could even change this overall thickness if I wanted to and hit OK. I could change the wall attributes, say to black if I wanted to, and I could draw in that way. I'm going to go into my wall tool preferences though. I want to draw a wall with components. So I'm going to click on my wall, in my wall preferences, I'm going to click my wall style drop down menu. I'm going to select this exterior 2x6 wood siding wall style. I'm going to double click on that wall style and I can see as I did so, I have my exterior 2x6 wood siding along the top. I have my wall preview of this wall style. I can see that there's a little hatch for the drywall. There's my bad insulation in my stud cavity. I can see that there's also sheathing and then siding as well. If I go into my edit wall attributes, I can see that these all say class style. If I try and change them, I'll try and change them, the fill from solid to solid and black, and I can hit OK. It only changes this black of this exterior component because all the other ones have an existing attribute already applied to them that override the wall attributes. So I can't, I have to go in and edit the components individually if I want to change the overall look of this wall style. I'm going to change this back to class style and hit OK. And there's my preview. Now I have this wall is made up of wood siding, sheathing, wood studs, and gypsum board. I can see at the bottom of this dialog box, I can add new components if I choose to. So I could just add a new component. A wall component settings dialog box comes up. I can specify the name, the thickness, the fill if I choose to. The other stuff, just leave it as it is. I'm not going to change, I'm not going to add a new style component. I'm going to do so, just duplicate one. Right now I want to change a few things to make this a little more to our building standards here. So I'm going to change my gypsum board. I'm going to double click or select and edit this gypsum board. I'm going to change the thickness to 1/2 inch. I'm going to go back on that. I want to leave my hatch and my textures all the same. The only thing I changed was the thickness, and hit OK. I'm going to change, I want to add a rain screen, so that rain screen, I'm actually going to duplicate my sheathing, and I can rename this. I'll just rename this one, and I'll name it rain screen. I'm going to leave it at 1/2 inch. I'm going to change that fill to solid so I can differentiate it and leave it at that color and hit OK. Now I actually, in creating this, I placed it in the wrong location, and I did so intentionally because we can easily modify the stacking order. So the stacking order here is on the left-hand side, and you can see that as I hover over this numbers, then my cursor changes to this curved rectangle. So I can grab that rain screen and I can just click and drag it up to where I want to place it. The next thing I want to modify, I can see that this core component is important. And right now it is measuring to the outside of the wood studs. I actually want to measure to the outside of sheathing because that's the entire structure. So in all, the changes that I made, I changed my gypsum board to 1/2 inches thick. I added a rain screen of 1/2 inch in between my sheathing and my wood siding, and I changed my core component from wood stud to sheathing. Before I go any further, I can see that this then changed my wall style to unstyled. I want to make sure I save these preferences as a wall style. I'm going to click there, and I'm not going to rewrite that wall style. I'm just going to add with rain screen and hit OK. And as I did that, my title is now at the top. I'm going to hit OK. Now, if
Carl, I just have a question regarding that. I had some problems with the where that line, that core component takes it to the outside of the component,
well,
or to the
in that case, we're just specifying what the core component is.
Yeah.
Now we have to get back into the wall tool, and I'll show you that.
Okay.
Okay, so I can see up in my wall style, I'm using that wall style I just created. It says exterior bearing 2x6 wood siding with rain screen. Now, I want to use my left control line mode, but before I actually draw, and I'm going to use my polygon mode. Before I go and draw it though, I have to actually, if I want to measure to the outside of my core component, I have to specify this core component control line mode. Otherwise, I'm going to specify those values, and they're going to be relative to the outside, the left side of my entire wall. If I don't specify I'm using a core component, then it's going to, no matter if I made those changes in my wall style already, if I don't choose that as a core component control line mode, it's still going to reference the outside of that wall. So I have left control line mode, I have core component control line mode. I'm going to draw using the polygon mode, and I'm going to draw using my exterior wall style with rain screen, and I'm going to draw in a clockwise direction. So I'm going to click to specify my first point. I'm going to go in, and this time I'm going to do, let's do 42 feet, enter, enter. I'm going to go down and I'll make this 20 feet, enter again. I'm going to do a little jut out, so I'll do this at, say, 14 feet. This 10 feet. I'll just end it there. Okay. So there is my wall. I can see as I zoom in, I can see that there is drywall, there's stud, and if I wanted to just measure this, I can. So there's my 1/2 inch, there's my 5.5 inches, there's my 1/2 inch sheathing, my 1/2 inch rain screen, and my inch of siding. Now, I specified 40 feet for this length of wall. If I go into my dimension tool, right now, my dimension tool is something separate than the wall tool. So even though I specified my core component in my wall tool to be the sheathing, and when I drew my wall, I specified that I wanted to use that as the control. When I'm measuring, I still need to pick which points I'm referencing. So I actually chose my outside of sheathing, so I can see I want to make sure I zoom in and I get that endpoint and it highlights red. Now I'm going to go over and zoom in. So this time I'm just going to press my snap loop or my Z key, and I can press it repeatedly and it zooms in even further. So I don't want that point because that's the outside of studs. I want the outside of sheathing right here. And I can see that if I didn't have a black fill, that is 42 feet, which is the measurement I place in that data field. Now, if I measured from the outside to the outside, and before I do this, I'm gonna change this back so I can see outside to outside, I'm going to get 42 feet plus the thickness on either side of my rain screen and siding.
Is there a sort of a shortcut way where you can, instead of having to zoom in and zoom out of the corners, that you could set up so you can, it sort of knows that that's where you want to snap it? Right?
Well,
so you just go along and snap it, because if you're dimensioning a whole building, you got to keep zooming in and zooming out on the corners.
yeah, but I can use that snap loop, so that Z key right now, it's going to zoom in where my cursor is. So I can just hit Z and I can just press it and it will take me, so I don't really have to, like I could be out at this scale and then I can just press my Z key and it goes in, and I can go, and then I can press my Z key again. It's going to zoom in wherever my, oh, but I did my scroll wheel. I went too far. So you're gonna have to, it's not gonna know there's so many snap points right there. You are gonna have to zoom in, but you don't have to use a scroll wheel. Use your Z key in the snap loop, and that's what the snap loop is for. It temporarily goes in until you click your cursor, and then it zooms back out to, extends to where you were.
How do you zoom back out again?
Either click or use your scroll wheel or escape. Escape works.